Welcome, travelers, to another episode of the Time Travel Trio podcast. I'm Jen.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Hyde.
And we're
the Time Travel Trio. Whew.
Woof. Happy summer.
Yeah.
Woohoo.
It feels like it here.
I know, right?
Definitely feels like it if you're in Arizona.
Yeah. Or Vegas, apparently. It's like 110 or something absurd.
Wow.
Isn't like Iran City in like Kuwait like over like 140, something crazy like that?
How? That's too hot.
It's just
That's
too hot.
I mean,
hot.
140, like, I thought the highest on record is like, well, I don't know, past, so.
I mean, it is a desert.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, it's
or
hot.
Arizona. Yeah, very hot.
It is hot outside. And
It's a hot one.
speaking of heat, what'd you pick?
That was real smooth.
I couldn't get there,
That literally
so I
has-
just tried to make it more exaggerated.
Literally has nothing to do with this movie.
Yeah.
I don't even know if the word heat is ever used in the movie, but it's Arrival from 2016,
Woo!
last year. A recent movie.
Yeah.
Woohoo! Hey, look at us.
Right, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Denis Villeneuve.
Good enough.
Villeneuve. Yeah, sure.
It's called Arrival. It's based off the short story of Your Life by Ted Chiang. And here's the plot line. When 12 mysterious spacecraft appear around the world, linguistics professor Louise Banks is tasked with interpreting the language of the apparent alien visitors, which stars Amy Adams, Forrest Whitaker, and Jeremy Renner.
I love Forrest Whitaker.
Yeah, he's awesome in
gotta
everything.
say. Yeah, he really is awesome in everything. My mom actually went to high school with him.
Wow, that's
Fun fact.
cool.
In the Palisades. I had never seen this movie before.
Yeah, same here.
We had already been doing the podcast when this movie came out, so Hyde saw it, right?
Yeah, I
You
saw it in theaters.
and then
Mhm.
so we waited.
Yeah, and I had no idea that this even qualified for the podcast, but apparently from Hyde and from people that are
Yeah,
asking
people
us
have-
questions, we're like, oh, okay, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, people have asked if we've done this yet, but they like hesitatingly asked me because they don't want to like give away the spoiler of the movie.
Right.
But like you're asking me, so when I went into the movie, I knew that somehow some sort of time something was involved, and it wasn't
Yeah.
like super apparent, so it must be like more of a surprise thing. So yeah, but we'll get into it. But first, let's watch the trailer.
There are days that define your story beyond your life. Like the day they arrived.
Signs of what might be called first contact. The objects measure at least.
I'm Colonel G.T. Weber from Army Intelligence. Pack your bags. You're at the top of everyone's list when it comes to translations. Priority 1. What do they want? Where are they from? You'll be reporting to me, but you'll be working with him when you're in the show.
That's what they call in the UFO.
Who's being carted off in the medevac?
Not everyone is wired for what you're about to do.
So what do they look like?
You'll see soon enough.
Every 18 hours, a door opens up. That's where we go in.
It's tough. Yeah, that just happened.
What happens now?
They arrive.
They need to see me.
Dr. Banks? Are you insane?
Now that's a proper introduction.
More objects have landed around the world.
This is one of 12. I'm never going to be able to speak their words.
Got 2 days. Figure something out.
I am human. It's their language. We need to make sure that they understand the difference between a weapon and a tool. Language is messy, and sometimes one can be both.
Are you dreaming in their language? It's possible they're prodding us to fight among ourselves.
This is just a way to force us to work together for once.
It's more complicated than that.
How is it more complicated?
Russia just executed one of their own to keep their secret
Got 21 hours.
before they start global war.
So how do we clarify their intentions?
I go back in.
Why does this feel worse?
It's a pretty dense trailer.
It is.
Yeah.
The line, "the secret to our survival" is in there, which doesn't even really make sense with the
No.
movie. The only, like, drastic... They kind of make it look like maybe the aliens are going to attack us, and there's, like, war, and there's, like, protest shots, and all this dramatic
But it's
stuff.
all just China and Russia. And
But it's just the humans dramatically acting out because there's aliens.
Right.
It's not any... The aliens don't ever do anything.
Right. Well, I understand from a marketing standpoint why the trailer is what it is.
Yeah.
When I saw this, I remember seeing this trailer in theaters, and I remember thinking, maybe. Like, it wasn't interesting, but I wasn't very, like, drawn. I wasn't, like, I don't know. I wasn't, like, it didn't get me going. But then I saw an interview, actually, with Amy Adams, and she was talking about the film and what it really was about. And it was a lot more about, like, this is more cerebral film, this is more about communication and language and, like, cultural discovery. And I was like, oh, I didn't get that from the trailer. That sounds interesting. And then I went to go see the film, and I was like, oh, I'm so glad that I saw the interview with Amy Adams. Like, otherwise I may not have...
Yeah, I agree. I think they didn't market it appropriately, because to me, it came off maybe as like a war drama that tried to be a little bit sci-fi, and it kind of felt a little bit like an identity crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, is this supposed to be a sci-fi movie, or is it just a heavy drama Oscar movie?
Mm.
And it kind of tried to flirt the line with both. And I liked the movie, but I don't really think it succeeded fully with either, to be honest. It wasn't sci-fi enough, and the drama wasn't suspenseful enough for me to buy either one. And I don't think combining both, having both kind of lacking, makes it more fulfilling, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
What did you think?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I did enjoy it. You know, you have to, like, it definitely has a tone that you kind of have to, if you're not in the right mood, it might be, like, too boring. I think at some points where it kind of, like, takes a little while to pick up, but, I mean, I wasn't bored by it, but I can just tell that it's, like, you have to get in the mood, and the movie does set the right tone, so, like, you're not, it's not jarring or anything like that, but, yeah, I thought it was good. I like that it was, I know this is me saying it, but I like that it wasn't about science. It was very much, like, the science guy isn't the one that we're following. We're following the girl that's about language.
Yeah, I agree.
You know? I thought it was a good choice.
It was definitely a nice change to have, you know, a female lead that we're following that isn't a science nerd. I agree. That was really nice.
Right.
I liked the movie.
Yeah. She's about empathy and understanding. And he's about, like, no, let's ask it science questions. She's like, no, let's understand what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
Right. Usually that character is a side character in these kind of movies.
Right.
Like, like, I understand their language. Like, they're literally there just to, like, tell the audience in the lead, like, this is what they're saying.
Yeah.
So it was nice to have one where, like, no. Once if this was actually just their story. Like, once Lieutenant Uhura from Star Trek was just the lead of the story.
Yeah. I agree. Although it was unfortunate. She's the only, other than her daughter, I guess, she's the only woman in the entire movie.
Yeah.
And I don't understand, I mean, I was going to say, I don't understand why. I could see the defense of, like, well, it makes her stand out more because she has more empathy than these army men.
Right.
But, like, there's army women, and, like, there's military women, and I don't understand why some of them couldn't have been involved with this.
Yeah, I wonder if it's a subconscious thing that she's the only really prominent woman in here, because it's, like, it makes you feel like she's alone.
Yeah, that's true.
Which, I mean, that's my guess. I don't know if that was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
It may not have been, honestly. I mean, the script was written by two men who did a very good job on the script. I'm not claiming sexism or anything with how they wrote it.
No.
I think it's a very thoughtful piece in the way they portray her and, like, femininity.
Yeah.
But it's not like... I do wonder if that was, like, purposeful. Like, isolate her and make her, like, the only, like, prominent woman, so she feels like it's everyone else.
I know, and even like the military guys, like, they're just three white dudes who would look the exact same. I couldn't tell them apart at all.
I couldn't tell you their names. I couldn't tell you any personality traits. They were literally just faceless white
military
drones.
dudes.
Yes.
Which, I mean, like, I guess for that reason, I like, oh, it's the guys from the earlier, but, like...
It could have added more depth to have a woman...
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
also up there.
Yeah.
Make one of them a minority.
It wouldn't have taken away... It wouldn't have taken away from Amy Adams' performance. It probably would have added some depth to it, seeing, like, comparing her empathy to the aliens versus like maybe a colder woman who
maybe
didn't have
maybe one
sympathy
to
for
plant the
them.
bomb or something.
Yeah, that would have been more interesting rather than I watched the news once in my army tent, and so now I'm gonna blow up the fucking aliens.
Right.
Like that was absurd.
Yeah, that actually for me that was like kind of the one more like disappointing scenes of the movie. Even though maybe it's realistic.
It was a stretch.
But
it was
it's
a
like
stretch that like
a bomb.
Okay, 1 or 2 guys fine, but there was like 8 guys that were in on this that were like willing to do it. They were helping each other. They went up there, whatever, and
literally could start like a nuclear war. Yeah, like by doing this
because they're afraid. Like I think it would have been more interesting if they had killed themselves instead, or something like that, rather than. I mean, like I get the aggression, wanting to get rid of the aliens, but there's 12 other pods. There's 11 other pods. So like what? Like, what are you achieving?
Right.
There's still going to be aliens.
No, I really enjoyed this movie. Like, so much the fact that when I was watching this, like, I need to probably buy this. But even I, like, that little... Mm-hmm. It's a very cool... It's a well shot scene and directed scene and edited scene. But storyline-wise, it is kind of, like, not tonally off, just... Everyone in the movie makes very competent, thought-out decisions. And then... I get it. The military guys are not like supposed to be the smartest tools in the shed, but I felt like they could have found a different way to get us to that same result. Yeah, like
destroy some of her work, maybe, or something like that, or like it just felt. You're right. It felt too much like every single person could understand why they were doing the things they were doing, and like these guys, it was a stretch. Yeah, and it was too dramatic.
And that's what I liked most about this movie. Yeah. Outside of this, what I liked most about this movie was that it was a movie that wasn't about violence. It was a movie that was about thinking and problem solving, which is so rare, in particularly alien sci-fi films. I think, like, the last chance we had of, like, I was not to go on a tangent, but I was not a fan of Star Trek Beyond. Mm-hmm. And the reason I was not... I loved the first Star Trek, and I even liked Star Trek Into Darkness. But Star Trek was like an adventure movie. Yeah. Star Trek Into Darkness was supposed to be like kind of like this action setup piece, almost like scaling down Star Trek. Yeah. And in Star Trek 3, for some reason, even though I liked the performances, liked the costumes, and the makeup, I felt it was just too violent for a Star Trek film. Like, I was like, this... Star Trek's supposed to be like about problem solving and like communicating with different cultures.
You're right. It was just about the violence.
Right. Yeah. It's like, and like, I'm not even Trekkie or Trekker. I'm not. Like, I really am not. But even I understand it. Like, you know, it'd be refreshing to see a movie more in the vein of like Atlantis: The Lost Empire again, or Arrival, where like they just come and like maybe there's a little action, but it's really more about convincing another culture to understand something or like problem solving.
I agree. I would have liked that there's this, and they did have this threat of violence and like the world fighting each other and the aliens not ever doing anything, and it's a smart way to show it. And I would have liked it if there wasn't any actual violence in the movie at all. I agree with you. I think that would have added a lot to the movie.
Always the threat of violence. Maybe even at one point where they're grabbing the guns. And, like, maybe they're thinking about doing it, but, like, maybe she's able to talk them down. Maybe someone else is able to talk them down.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, maybe they meet them up there when they're planting the bomb or something instead of... First of all, bombs don't make noises at all. They just completely ignored... I thought that was kind of a stretch. They completely ignored the bomb that was right there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Silent Countdown, I guess, is the world they live in.
Right, but like...
I know. But it was... I did like that...
Not that there's that much equipment up there that they wouldn't, like, note. They go up there 35 times.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff up there.
You would notice something different.
That'd be like if someone left a suitcase in your bedroom, basically. Yeah. You'd be like, hey, what's that suitcase?
But
you could still look at it.
I know. I did like the moment where, like, was it Abbott that died? Yeah, like, he stayed there to, like, be like, no, like, look, and then, like, you know, did the thing where they, like, fell back and
that was cool. Like I said, it's a very cool
Costello,
scene.
like, went away.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that was nice. And I like that they didn't have her say a line like, he died, or something like that.
Right, she just understood the language.
Right, and we understood what it meant. He's not there. He sacrificed himself to save them. Like, that, I think, was a cool way to show that.
Yeah, thankfully no subtitles, no, like... You know, that'd be really cheesy.
Annoying,
yeah. This whole movie, we were supposed to look at this alien language, and then it's just like a little subtitle at the end.
Yeah. So since we're talking about the alien language, let's get into the timeness. I'm not going to say time travel, because there isn't actually any
Yeah,
technically there's no time traveling.
Yeah.
But yeah,
which is good
the
because
temporal shift.
Because how terrible would that twist have been if there's just like, now let's go back in time or forward in time? Like, I like that it was like, at least in my understanding when I watched it, and I've only seen this movie twice. In my understanding, she basically, by learning their language, they implanted in her something that basically makes her a fifth-dimensional being, where time no longer has a structure. It's no longer linear. She just sees things as she needs to see them.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's less they gave something to her and more that the understanding of the language, because the language, it's like, I forgot the word she described it, but like, there's no start or end to their sentences. It's just, the thing is, there's no like beginning or end to it. So like, once you fully understand it, then you start to see time non-linearly. So like, you achieve it by learning the language. And I guess technically they did because they gave her the language, but it was her learning it for her to unlock this like thing.
So here's the big plot hole with that. And I'm not disagreeing with you, and we had talked about this after we watched the movie, but the problem is she's the only one who gets this. So if it's just learning the language, shouldn't anyone be able to see their future?
Yeah.
But no one else does, to our knowledge. Definitely not Ian.
Definitely not Ian, but
who is
the closest person who should probably understand.
Right, and that's why I wonder if it is implanted, because the Chinese general is able to somewhat understand the idea of nonlinear time.
When we were talking about that,
he knows that her brain works in a weird way.
And the reason why is because I don't speak Chinese, so I don't know what she said to him on the phone.
I do know what they said.
Oh, what did he say?
So, okay, it was answered in an interview. Basically, he said that my wife said, war makes widows out of the world.
Oh, okay.
And like something like that, something the equivalent of that, or like war makes great men, but it leaves widows.
Yeah, but she says more than that.
She was talking to him for a little bit, so it's
she was like, "My name is Dr. Banks. I'm,
yes, it's reasonable to understand that she explained it to him. Will you meet me in the future? Whatever. Blah 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 blah." And she told him what he needed to do in the future. So I don't necessarily, because I don't think someone like him is going to take the time to understand an entire language of aliens.
Yeah.
So
but like what he says to her is like I can't begin to understand how your brain works, but I feel like I should do this for you right now, because he must have had some idea that he had to do it.
And to me, that implies that she told him that he had to.
Exactly, and I agree.
Not that he learned it somehow on his own.
I agree.
So if she's the only one, really, who can see her future, what is different about her that no one else can utilize? Maybe no one else fully understands the language, you could say. There's different vague explanations you could give to, reason away the plot hole.
I know, but
it is a problem.
I was thinking after we talked about it some more, like, I think you maybe planted this idea in my head where, like, to fully understand it, the clip we have kind of explains this too, but maybe she was so close to it, and she actually interacted with the writing of it, like, she touched the ink, like, when she was in the ship, and then she wrote with it.
But my problem with that is that she saw the future before she touched the ink.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah, when she was learning it, she kept flashes of it. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Like, it was starting to flash as she was learning more and more about it.
Yeah.
But this is the clip of her explaining what happens when you fully understand the language.
I can read it. I know what it is.
What?
It's not a weapon. It's a gift. The weapon is their language. They gave it all to us. Do you understand what that means?
So we can learn Heptapod, if we survive.
If you learn it, when you really learn it, you begin to perceive time the way that they do. So you can see what's to come. Look, time, it isn't the same for them. It's non-linear.
Look, we did our best, but it wasn't enough.
I guess there's potential that someone else who's a talented linguist could also understand and crack the code, having their language, and that maybe it's more complicated, that you have to be someone as talented as her or on her level to fully, quote unquote, unlock it.
Yeah, I know.
2%.
It's still kind of it's still kind of a stretch that Ian doesn't understand it. or doesn't see the future somehow.
Yeah, it's weird because like we don't really know if he knows what happened with her ability to see the future.
Right.
But like, and maybe he does, and he just doesn't want to know. Like, because when she explains to Hannah, like, you know, she's like, "Oh, I told your father about something that he wasn't ready to hear yet." Like, did he know that that Amy Adams knew the future and then just didn't want to know anything? And then she told him one thing, and he was like, "No, don't tell me. I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave now."
Or
You know?
is he that much of a dick that he didn't know that she could see the future? She told him that this is what was wrong with their daughter, and he left anyway.
Yeah.
Either way, he's kind of a dick for leaving.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I go with the latter. I actually think
Yeah.
that he doesn't fully understand the future, but he understands it enough that when she tells him, he believes her, and that like I don't think he is upset that there's something wrong with that. I think he is more upset, to give his character some credit, the Ian character more credit, Jeremy Renner's.
Yeah.
I think he's upset that she would choose to have a daughter, knowing that the daughter will die prematurely.
Yeah.
I
No,
think
I
that's
agree.
I
I
don't think
see,
it's just straight up like, how dare you have a kid and like have something wrong with it. I think he's like, how could you do that? Like,
Yeah, no,
you know?
I agree. Yeah, that's what I meant. Yes, but it's still
not the best move.
He's first of all, he's the one who suggested they have a kid in the first place.
Yeah.
She didn't need to say no because he would have gotten mad at her anyway if she's like, "No, I don't want to have a kid. Here's why." And when they had that conversation, like, if you knew it was going to happen, would you change anything? And he
Right.
was like, "No, I would just savor the moments more."
Right.
So then, what the hell is the problem?
Right, like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Then
funny.
he's contradicting himself.
Right, I mean, that's where she's at. He says it, but she truly believes it. It's, even though she doesn't say
Yeah.
it, she's the one who's like, you know what, if I get to have some time with my daughter.
I still just don't. I don't think it follows with what we learned about his character by
Yeah.
the end of the movie.
Right.
I think he's someone who would stay. And I said this to Matt after we watched the movie. I wish when we saw some of those clips of actually him with the daughter, I would have liked to seen a clip of him there when she died
Yeah.
in the
Though
hospital.
maybe he wasn't there at that point. Maybe she slips it out before she dies.
No, I think she did too because she's still alive and she's like, "I just told your dad something. This is why he left." Blah blah blah. When she's still young,
Right.
she's not sick yet.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like, once she is sick, he should get over his prejudice against her knowing the future because she's still their daughter.
Right.
He should be there when she
Yeah,
died, and I think that would have been a nice full circle. Like, okay,
Yeah.
we can be mad,
Like, show
whatever,
them
but
together
at the end
at
of
her
the
bedside.
at the end of the day,
I agree. That would
he's
have been
gonna
nice.
follow through, and he still loves her.
That would have been nice. Like, he's upset with her, but he's
Yeah.
not upset at the daughter.
Yeah.
Right.
It
And
seems
that's
like
what I
he just
felt-
bailed 100%.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's what I felt was not consistent, and that really bothered me.
Yeah, it is
Yeah.
inconsistent with his character.
Yeah.
It is.
So we kind of touched on how the time
What's happening? I
Time
guess?
dilation.
Sure.
Time.
Yeah.
timeness works.
Manipulation.
My problem scientifically is, how does understanding the language make your brain be unstuck in time?
I mean,
How does that even?
I guess
it doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make sense. But I guess they kind of try and explain it away by saying, like, when you immerse yourself in the language, your brain rewires itself to think differently.
I know what the movie tries to explain, but in terms of real science, it doesn't make
Yeah.
any sense how learning a language then makes your brain unstuck in time.
Yeah, no, I don't know.
Like, just there's no
Like
physical
secret button that our brains
Yeah.
can actually see
Like, we're
what's going
not-
to happen in our future, because the future is constantly sciencey. Future is constantly in flux, so decisions we make
Yeah.
are different. There's a million different
Yeah,
timelines.
which leads me to another issue I had at first with it, but I kind of explained away in my head kind of the plot hole when, okay, so she gets the knowledge that she needs to save the day by seeing her future, talking to the Chinese prime minister. Are they prime ministers?
The general or prime minister.
General, sorry, the general from China. Wouldn't, at that point, she then knows the information in the past, so then in that future, would that conversation be changed now that she like knew it? But then I was like, well, now it's non-linear, so at that point in the future, she could be experiencing like that past mind of herself. So like, it's not that like she just forgot about it or wouldn't know it now. It's non-linear for her at that
Yeah,
point.
for her mind, her past and her future are coexisting at the same
Exactly,
time. So
right.
it's
It's not a
there
plot hole,
isn't
really.
a different there isn't like a different time when she didn't know the future.
Right.
She always knew
everything.
what was going to happen.
Just in that moment, it's like, it's a weird, her brain is in a weird time state where she's like, wait, okay, oh, that's right, yeah. It's like, I think you said, like, she's remembering, or...
you kind of were like, isn't she learning all this for the first time, and that changes it, or something like that, and I was like, no, because... It's been a long time. She's experienced a lot since
her brain
then.
Is
her brain is remembering,
weird.
Quote unquote, as it's happening in the past.
Yeah, she's unstuck in
for
time.
For movie convenience.
Right.
Yes.
That logic checks out now. I'm like, okay, I understand that now. Like, she's, like, because I watched the clip where she explains it, like, oh, time is non-linear for her now. So it's like, it's hard for her to say, do I remember this, or is this new, or is this past or future to her now?
Yeah. So... not really rules that we can kind of grab onto for this, because we don't really get
it's purposely ambiguous.
Yeah. So, consequences, though, we kind of touched on the whole thing with her and Jeremy Renner and their daughter.
Yeah, it's the choices you have to make. Knowing your future.
Mm-hmm. Do you make a different choice? She doesn't. Maybe she can't. I don't know. But
right, yeah.
Because what she did, she always does.
Yeah, so the rules like that are unclear, but the consequences are pretty evident. It's like, would you change anything? Yeah. Which kind of goes in line with the movie, which is more cerebral. It's like, we're used to seeing like someone vanish or whatever. It's like, no, this is more like the choices you make and how they impact your life, Right. Yeah. It's more cerebral.
Since you saw this in theaters and didn't really know what was going to happen...
When did I figure it out?
When did you figure out about Jeremy Renner's character, that he was the dad?
I figured it out. There was a scene. It's the scene where she falls asleep, and it's not the. It's when they're talking about the win-win scenario, but what's it called? The non-zero
sum game.
Non-zero sum game. Because when that happened, I realized, wait a second. Okay, like
that's
all of a sudden it made sense. I was like, wait a second, okay. She is not remembering something from the past. That's not possible. Yeah. Because, like, I realized, because, the movie makes it seem like her daughter died before everything that happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there was, right before that scene, she and Jeremy Renner have a moment that hints that she has never been married or never had a kid.
Right, she's single.
And then when she wakes up from that dream, after having remembered that, I realized she was older. That was the future. And I was like, there's no way that happened before this. And I was like, and I thought at first, not knowing completely what was going on, I thought at first, maybe the aliens can see the future, and so they're just feeding her little, like, breadcrumbs so her to solve problems. I did not realize that she was starting to see everything nonlinear until the little...
The picture of them. Of the parents with the bird.
I know. I kind of got on pretty much when the movie told you that it was confirmed. But, like, at first I was like, in my head I was like, okay, Hannah's in the past. And I was like, she's drawing this picture of her mom with a guy and a canary. I was like, wait, can her daughter, like, see the future, or has the past changed now? And then I was like, oh, no, it's all in the future. Okay.
We've just seen a lot of time travel movies.
Yeah. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I would say for me. For me, I was suspicious... Honestly, as soon as they introduced Jeremy Renner's character, they stayed on him too long. He was a little bit too central in that shot to just be a passive character. And then I was like, okay, obviously he's like a big character in the movie.
Plus it's Jeremy Renner,
It's Jeremy Renner. He's good looking. Yeah, exactly.
Him and his glasses.
So by then I was a little suspicious, and I'm like, huh. And then I knew when she said, it was like, if you want science, ask your father. Right. That's when which is earlier in that same scene that you were talking about, that's when I was like, oh, that's 100% Jeremy Renner.
Right, it has to be. Like, there's no way she married two scientists.
Okay, that's like when it kind of unlocked in my brain.
You're like, oh, wait, because there's no way she married two scientists. There's just no way. There's no way.
Also, she has a really nice house for being a teacher. Yeah. I just want to say. I guess she gets some of that government money.
She gets that consulting money, man. She gets that consulting money.
Yeah.
Top level security.
Yeah. So I was just curious when you guys realized.
Yeah, since we're all talking about kind of the flash forwards being flashbacks, I was 100% thinking of Lost during this movie.
Yeah.
Because, first of all, flashbacks, and it ended up being flash forwards with like, we have to go back, where it's like, nope, you're thinking it's the flashbacks, it's the flash forwards.
Flash forward.
Not only that,
Back,
but
Kate.
Desmond being unstuck in time, she's unstuck in time.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, the end scene, which is on the phone with the Chinese general, it's like she has to get the information to save the day. She gets it from a vision that's not in her current time. She has to go on the phone call to like...
Yeah, it's
like,
definitely like the constant.
Yeah. I couldn't help but think about
Where
that.
Desmond meets Penny in the past and gets the phone
Gets
number.
then calls her and stuff. So.
Oh, for sure. No, you're totally spot on. It definitely feels like Lost in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't until a little bit before we did the podcast, he says kind of like Lost. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I never thought of it when I saw it that way, but when after you said it, I'm like, yeah, it does kind of have that same vein.
I couldn't stop thinking about it whilst watching the movie.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I felt like actually the beginning felt like a Doctor Who episode, but like from the outside, like it was happening, but we weren't in the Doctor's inner circle, so like, we had to watch what was going on from like a regular person.
Yeah, because there's an
That's very
episode
interesting.
where we follow one of the companions in like a weird alternate timeline where it's like she's not with the Doctor, but like we see she's watching the news and it's like, oh, aliens are in the sky, and like you're like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, it's kind of jarring at first. But in a good way.
Yeah.
You mentioned this, I liked that the movie fooled the audience by showing the daughter's life first. For many reasons. One, I liked that it created instant, like, sympathy and understanding of her character.
Yeah.
Even after we learn, okay, this stuff happens in her future, we still understand the type of person she is, and then understanding that is the future, and she knows that was going to happen. She still did it anyway. She still said this person's life, even though it's short, still deserves to be lived.
Right.
That kind of stuff. She's smart. She's whatever. So I liked that aspect of it, and I liked that, that we thought that she's now alone. She's in this big house. Not that big of a house, but she's in this house.
It's nice.
It's a nice house.
Lakeside house.
She's in a lake house.
Yeah.
Has to be the Midwest. No way she can afford that on a that salary. It has to be like the Midwest. She's like in Michigan. Like
I know, that's what I was going to say. Like, there's no way. That house is so nice
Minnesota.
for like a college professor.
Yeah. I know, but like on the opening, like obviously it was a good scene to like set the tone, but it was the most depressing opening since Up.
Yeah, I definitely it felt like
opening.
Up for sure. And it was sad, but it was nice to kind of get it almost out of the way a little bit instead of like having to see, because I feel like most movies would show her life throughout, and like
have the
quote
cancer
unquote
reveal
flashbacks
and then at
that
the
we
end,
would see, and then and they would think that was the big reveal that they're trying to tell in the movie, but really it's not. And I like that this movie told it that way, and I think that was really good storytelling.
Yeah, it would have been too much if it was like, oh, by the way, Jeremy Renner's the father, and by the way, she dies of cancer. You know, all that stuff at once.
Yeah. A lesser writer probably would have had Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner already know each other, and then they have this daughter together, and so it wasn't like a big shock that it was Jeremy Renner, but rather the shock was that the girl has cancer and she dies in their future or in their past or whatever it is, and that they do this because of it or from it. So I thought that was really well done, and I really appreciated that. Definitely when Louise says, "Who is this child you keep showing me?"
Right.
That was like definitely a
hint.
A hint for sure. Like if you hadn't figured it out then,
like that was
should have been a big clue that this was not already happened.
She's like, who is this? Who is this kid?
She literally says, "Who is this child you keep showing me?" or something like that.
Right.
And I was just like, okay, so then that's the future.
Yeah.
Right.
This child we see in visions of her with, she doesn't know who it is, so
yeah.
Like I feel like a mom would know her kid, so
yeah. So there's another clip that you wanted to play, right?
Yes, it's the kangaroo clip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just a fun scene in the movie. I remember seeing this too, and we were both just like, cool. Yeah,
it's just a funny scene. The movie's very dense and heavy, and I just like the scene.
Yeah.
Everything you're doing there, I have to explain to a room full of men whose first and last question is, how can this be used against us?
Kangaroo.
What is that?
In 1770, Captain James Cook's ship ran aground off the coast of Australia, and he led a party into the country, and they met the Aboriginal people. One of the sailors pointed at the animals that hop around and put their babies in their pouch, and he asked what they were, and the Aborigines said kangaroo. It wasn't until later that they learned that kangaroo means I don't understand.
I can sell that for now.
Fair.
And remember what happened to the Aborigines? A more advanced race nearly wiped them out.
It's a good story.
Thanks. It's not true. But it proves my point.
Yeah, it's funny
That's a great
because
clip.
it's just great because obviously the dialogue's funny and shows her character. It's like just get this out of the way, do it. But I also like Forrest Whitaker's character where he's hard, but he's like, oh yeah, okay, great, I can use that. Thanks.
Right.
Let's stay on point. Like where his character isn't just like,
Yeah.
all right. He's like, cool, thanks. That's what I needed to
He's
hear.
not a super hard old white man, which
Right.
easily could have been cast that way.
It
Right.
could
Like,
have been.
and not that it would be bad. Like even someone like I don't know. I was gonna say Clint Eastwood, but he's too old. No, like
But I know that kind of type.
that kind of like older, harsh man.
Right, like a Nick Nolte.
Yeah, yeah. Someone like military hard, and Forrest Whitaker does a good job because he's still harsh.
Yeah,
he still
he's
goes
stern.
on point. He still is dangerous. He still
Right.
puts her in these dangerous
But he
situations
trusts
to get
her,
what
though.
he needs.
Right.
But he's also a little bit more giving and more sympathetic, and that's like who he plays as an actor. And so I think that was
he
really
feels like
nice.
someone who has a personal relationship with her, but
Yeah.
has to stay professional.
Exactly.
But at the same
Yes.
time, he still cares about her well-being.
Yeah.
He's just like, yo, these are the rules.
Yeah.
I brought you on this. Do not get me
Yeah.
fired because
Yeah.
I brought on the linguistics doctor.
Yeah, here's what
Yeah.
I need from you.
Who
And he
like
got
got
it.
us all killed.
Yeah, I liked that. I mean, I say I like sarcastically. I like that it took so long for them to actually show Jeremy Renner's face. Like, it's
Yes.
still, like, at that point, we're like, we know it's Jeremy Renner. It's
Like-
either Jeremy Renner or Forrest Whitaker. Come on.
You can't-
There's no other guy in this movie. Like, just show us his face.
Show us your face. Show us your face.
So, like,
yeah.
dramatically long. It was like a David Lynch shot. It took forever. So, not really any scientific accuracy we can kind of grab onto. We kind of touched on that.
I know. I mean, I did like kind of the science, the sci-fi-ness of it all, kind of the alien technology. There's no radiation, there's no emission. They kind of just have this ship that is just there.
Yeah.
It's like a weird material.
It dissolves in and out, basically.
Yeah, it was really cool when they
Which is
when they
cool.
went away. They like evaporated, which was really cool.
Yeah,
it was like,
instead of
it
like
became a cloud.
it wasn't like a zoom off into space. It was like it just kind of
Yeah, give it
disappeared,
kind of a
Yeah,
which was
mystic.
kind of it was kind of nice. It was
It's
a nice
cool.
change to like woo.
Can we,
like,
can we
zoom out.
quickly give a lot of kudos to Bradford Young, who did the cinematography of this movie?
Yeah.
Like this movie is really beautiful to look at.
Yeah, it had long,
Yeah, it is.
nice shots.
That love, I loved the huge screen because it lit her so well when
Yeah.
she got up close to it. It was
She was
like
like-
perfect. It was beautiful lighting on her.
I know.
Yeah, that was great.
It was cool too. Obviously, there was the moment where you're like, "Whoa!" When they go into the ship for the first time, and it's like the gravity is shifted, and like they throw it up, and they kind of like jump to there, and it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, it was well done. The only places that I felt like were a little bit too CGI'd were when she actually went inside.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
it was
the
pretty
hair is
blatantly like her
CGI.
face. You could
Like
tell
green
there
screen.
wasn't. It was like she was not actually doing that.
Yeah,
which
'cause-
I didn't understand. I mean, I don't know. Whatever, it was a choice, but I thought it took away a little bit. It
Yeah.
kind of took me out of it.
Because like I mean, other movies when they kind of need people to be almost look like they're underwater, like in Guardians of the Galaxy when they're in space. I think they're underwater when they're
Yeah.
filming that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're kind of floating and they're kind of, I don't know, it looks like they're suspended in something. But like, she obviously wasn't underwater because like she,
Wasn't even there.
yeah, it was CG.
Yeah.
But they could have just put her underwater and just have her say her lines. I mean,
Yeah,
obviously it'd
there's
be
other
more hard to
ways
do
to shoot that,
with
but
lighting and stuff like that.
it was a
but-
choice. But yeah, I want to point out the music. The score was great by Johan Johansson, who also did Theory of Everything, which is a great score.
Yeah.
He did this too. It was really well done.
Great sound. Like this is and like
It
I'm,
won
I'm-
for sound
and
mixing.
sound editing actually.
Sound editing,
And a
yeah.
nominated for sound mixing. This is literally a film that like when I walked out, I was like, dude, that sound in that movie is good. Like that better get nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
For the first, I don't know, 20 minutes, there was just nonstop ambient helicopter noise.
Yes.
Which probably helped them. Like, look at this, all the different ways you can hear a helicopter noise.
Yeah.
Like,
Uh-huh.
they were like,
They're in one, they're near one, it's in the background, it's through a building, it's like, there's all these
Yeah.
helicopters.
I want to ask, do you guys feel that it was deserving of being nominated for Motion Picture of the Year?
yes. Yeah.
What do you
I
think?
totally agree.
I think it did because it touched on the subjects that most Oscar movies do. It's like understanding, working together, I think as far as a sci-fi movie goes, in turn, like the themes that it has, I think that qualified it for it, just because that's usually what they go for. It's it's Hollywood being full of itself, but that's kind of what they go
La La
for.
Land is Hollywood being.
Yeah.
Arrival
I know.
was a very much counteractive
Yeah.
to everything that normally is not nominated.
Yeah. I don't think it was a perfect movie, for sure, but I think it, for the most part, deserved to be nominated. Definitely for the sound and the cinematography, and I'd say even the screenplay. I don't know if I personally am a little bit picky about movies that I feel should be nominated for Motion Picture of the Year, because to me that means every aspect of your movie is great. And I haven't done this tangent on the podcast, but I have in life previously. When what's the James Cameron movie I hate?
Titanic?
Avatar. No, that one too. Avatar. Name a James Cameron movie. No, when Avatar was nominated for Motion Picture of the Year, I was angry because a Motion Picture of the Year, that's a movie that in every single category is the best. That movie is not the best in every single category. It's really, really great in a lot of categories, but as far as something like screenplay for Avatar, definitely did not deserve to be nominated. There was nothing original about that screenplay at all.
Was it nominated for screenplay?
No, but I'm saying...
But you're saying because it didn't have a good
that
script.
should have qualified as an aspect of it.
Yeah, if the screenplay isn't solid, then it can't be a great movie. Cause
Exactly.
I don't know. I'm a little indifferent on that because sci-fi doesn't get enough credit. Like, it just doesn't. I mean, I like seeing sci-fi and, like, different movies and comedies get nominated. Because a comedy's not going to get, generally, nominated for, like, 11 categories. It's neither will sci-fi. I mean, they let 10 movies in, up to 10 movies in for Best Picture.
Yeah.
I feel like there's some really good movies that got nominated for Best Picture this year. Even La La Land, I know I took a dig at it, but La La Land deserved to be nominated for Best Picture. But it's like, you know, it's just one of those films like, I mean, what else would you put, what would you replace it with, I guess, or taking it out for, you know?
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I agree, but like that movie in particular, to me, got way more accolades than it deserved. Visually, yes, it was very stunning.
You're talking about Avatar.
I'm talking about Avatar.
Okay.
I think, yes, James Cameron is talented in visually presenting a movie, but adapting a screenplay into a film is not in his forte, or whoever wrote it, whatever. It's like, there's no way to avoid the fact that you stole every single plot point of that movie. And so that is where I have an issue, where I'm like, a movie like this, like Arrival, deserved to be nominated. It was a good screenplay, it was good cinematography, it was good sound, it was good directing, it was all of that, yes. So I'm saying, like, if you want that, to have more sci-fi movies to be stronger, then they need to be made with more care, like this movie, like, to create them not just aliens and guns and violence and whatever. And, you know, violence that can be in it, but it's more creating it as, like, an important movie, not just some sci-fi or superhero movie or whatever that's thrown off to the side because of the content. It can still be dramatic, as we can see with this movie, with Arrival. So my issue isn't so much that they're never nominated, it's that it's old white men who are voting for it who don't even like sci-fi in the first place.
That is very true.
So eventually that will probably change if a new generation ever comes to judge those movies. But anyway, my rant is over.
I know what you're saying.
You know what I mean.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. Back to this. What do you feel is the purpose of this movie? That's kind of where I struggled a little bit. I mean, I get the story
in terms of the plot.
I get the story they're trying to tell.
The
I get they're
messages and
trying to
stuff.
say about communication, whatever, but at the core of it, what's the purpose of creating this movie?
You know, I think the purpose for me, at least when I walked out of it, I walked out of it at a time where this movie came out in October, and this was like right before the election. And not that I think of this politically, I hate whenever this movie's about Trump. Like, no, it's not. You made this in like 2016. Stop. But, but what I like about this movie was that it did give an optimistic view that like you could get people to communicate and talk to each other.
Okay.
I mean, maybe that's blasé or not deep enough. I definitely think there's other stuff going on there. But the big thing that I walked out of was, if you're talking to someone who doesn't see things the way you see it, how do you find common ground? And how much work and effort is it really going to take when it's all said and done? Because it takes a lot of work and a lot of patience for them to be able to talk to these aliens. Mm-hmm. And not everyone would have that patience.
No, that's true. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I definitely understand what the movie's trying to say, but in terms of what happened in the movie, aliens came to Earth to teach them their language and then left.
Yeah, I didn't really get why, I think. What was their goal in
just to teach them language,
sharing their language? Because it didn't necessarily seem like they came there ready to share.
Yeah,
they came there waiting. Waiting for someone to come to them, and then they ended up sharing their language because that's how they communicated, and then they left.
Yeah, but they didn't give faster than light travel. They didn't give them scientific advancements. They were just here's our language.
They gave Louise the ability to see her future, and kind of that's it.
Yeah.
So I kind of had a problem with that I didn't get why these aliens needed to, share this with the humans. Did they want them to show more unity, I guess, through language? Maybe, but that doesn't really get explained, or that's never really said that was why they came in the first place. They just kind of came. They ended up where they ended up for no reason. No one really... That I felt was kind of a...
They never explained the location. They never explained the location.
That was kind of a missed opportunity, because they talk about it more than once. Why are these in these particular places? And then it's literally never explained, and they just leave.
That's true. They do never explain that. I mean, I wasn't so torn about that, but I just think it was kind of there's a lot that can be done with it, but it's going to mean something different to everyone. It would mean something different to Louise than if Ian got the power to do that, the ability.
Yeah.
I mean, I know what you're saying. I totally understand your frustrations with it. But for me, it was kind of it's if she can convince people to really delve into this, it could really change some stuff.
True, but I do want to point out the movie Paycheck that we did a while ago, because in that movie, he can see the future. People can see their futures, and it creates the end. Yeah, which it's a whole thing. Listen to that episode, but we won't talk about that science right now. But don't worry, Matt. But I just want to point out that, in that movie, they're saying if you can see the future, it's going to destroy the world, because if you, and that's that movie's logic. I'm not saying this is Arrival's logic, but that movie says if you're shown, disease will come. If you're shown destruction and poverty and war, then that's what will come. What you see, that's what happens. Get. And that kind of does happen with Louise, but it's kind of a choice, kind of not. So it's, as we've said before, it's more vague. But I just wanted to kind of talk about that, how they didn't really come with that much of a purpose at the end of the day. They didn't know that Louise was going to be there, Not really. Maybe they did.
Unless
I guess
they saw
could
their
see
future.
The future, but what
Which
does
they
that...
would, probably.
What does that give to them? Not that everyone in the world or in the universe is a selfish creature, but they're going out of their way to give someone a language. Why? And this movie isn't created to necessarily answer that question, but that's a question that kind of...
Yeah, I mean, the aliens their time is not linear, so maybe they went there because they knew they went there, so
maybe
but then it's why still?
Maybe for them, maybe for them that creates a some sort of a sequence of events that creates something else that does something for them or whatever. Who knows? So anyway, what other notes did you guys have? I think those were most of my questions that I wanted to kind of bring up.
Would you want to experience this time travel?
I don't. Well, to see your own future? No, I don't think I would.
Yeah, that's tough.
Especially that.
Tough decision.
It's not it's. I don't know. I don't think so. Maybe I don't know if I would see something I didn't want to see, because then I don't know if I would have Amy Adams' reaction of
It comes to it happens as it happens, and I wouldn't want to deal with the burden of knowing that.
I know. It's I would like to experience being in the ship and talking with the aliens, and also I think that'd be really cool. It's mind blowing. But because even kind of a different thing, but if you were to see yourself in the future, you wouldn't want that person to tell you everything that's going to happen to you. I know I've said before, I just want to ask them if they met their future self when they're my age? That's what I would ask myself. None of my information about my future life, so same reason I wouldn't want this power.
Right.
You know, because like I want to live my life. I don't want to have to know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you want to be like Looper.
Yes. Yeah.
Because that's what, like, with his friend in Looper.
Right.
He sees himself and he remembers. Okay, so I did want to point out the fourth dimensional being from Men in Black 3 is in this movie. That actor, he plays the CIA.
He's the other...
He's
the
not
government
necessarily military, but he is government. He's CIA or something like that. Because at one point he talks to Langley.
Right.
So he must be CIA. But anyway, so he's in this movie, and that movie, and he's also in another movie that we're gonna do next time that we'll get to at the end of the episode.
So he has his own little
So
trilogy.
he has a mini trilogy. Who doesn't, I guess.
Yeah.
Join the club. Did you guys have any other notes? I think that's everything.
No,
that
I didn't have that much, but I think I touched on everything. So
yeah, I think we touched on all the stuff that I wanted to talk about. I did want to say, so like after the movie was over and Matt was watching or pulling the clip of like what happened, I was watching the new trailer for Raven's Home.
Oh yeah,
the That's So Raven reboot.
And she can see into the future.
She can see into the future, and so as soon as I watched that trailer, I said, "Can her kids see the future?"
Like, yeah.
And he thought I was talking about Arrival.
Right.
Okay, so
he's
here's
like, no.
here's the thing. So she's on the couch. I'm on my computer. I have headphones on, like one ear, so I'm listening to the scene. It's the scene where she's talking to Hannah about like the future. She's like, "Oh, I know what's going to happen, and your father couldn't handle it." And then she I just hear her ask, "Can her kids see the future?" And I'm just like, "No, Hannah can't see the future." And then she was like, "What?"
Yeah, it was really.
It
Anyway,
was great. Perfect timing.
kind of had to be there, I guess, but it was really funny.
And you could say to Amy Adams, like, "You saw the future? That is so Raven."
Yeah.
So Raven. Okay.
Or she could have been like Hannah, you know that show you love? That's So Raven. Mommy's like that.
Except she doesn't give visions.
Yeah.
I wonder if she continues to see parts of her future.
I'm sure she does.
Because we
Yeah, I
don't
think
ever
she's
see
unstuck.
her past her daughter dying.
I'm pretty sure, like, as this movie ends, she'll see other stuff in the future.
Like, it continues because she
Yeah.
knows the language.
Yeah, she's unstuck in time
That's cool.
now, so
Yeah.
it's kind of...
I don't think she can lose it.
Yeah. That's cool. Maybe she doesn't want anyone else to know. Maybe she feels it's a burden, and so, like, when she writes that book, maybe she doesn't give everyone all the tools in order to
True.
be able to
Yeah,
see the
true.
future.
I know.
That could be a reason. Okay. Final reviews? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
All right. I'll start. Movie rating. I did like this movie. I did have a few problems, a few questions that were unanswered. There isn't actually time travel, but there is time and there's some plot twists, I guess. And I liked how they told the story. I liked showing the daughter dying in the beginning and kind of get a feel for her as a character, and then later we find out that's actually the future, and it's cool. And the voiceover that goes along with that is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I was thinking 8 out of 10 as well. It's not perfect, but I liked it a lot. I thought it was interesting. I liked that it did things differently with an alien, quote-unquote, invasion, an alien arrival movie.
Yeah.
I like that it wasn't, let's obviously it was a theme in the movie of, like, let's find out, like, what they're trying to do here, but, like, it's more about understanding what they're trying to say, so it's less sciencey and more, like, emotional, which I thought was a good change.
Mm-hmm.
The stuff with Jeremy Renner's character, other than making the twist, I thought it was pretty, I don't know, like, he just bailed on his daughter.
Yeah.
Like, just because his wife can see the future and she told him that. Like,
After everything
get
they've
over it,
been
bro.
through,
Like, it's
they
your
should-
daughter.
Yeah.
Like, do this for your daughter
Yeah.
that you know is going to die. Like, give her a life that she would like to have. Like,
Yeah.
don't take this away from her. I have problems with that. But, yeah, I enjoyed it, though. So, 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I brought a little higher, probably 8.5, just because, like, man, I really like this. I saw this in theaters and, like, seeing, like, with the sound and, like, the big screen and, like, everything, like, really was like, whoa, man, like, this movie.
Yeah, I could see that.
So, but yeah, I really enjoyed this film. It was very different when I saw it, and I remember thinking, like, that was unique when I walked out of the theater.
Mhm.
So, yeah, 8.5.
Cool. So, time travel, no one actually travels. She just sees her future, and it's never explained at all. It just kind of is, she understands the language fully, and then that somehow allows her to see her future. So I'm going to have to give this like a 1.5 out of 10.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, there's not much to kind of grab onto to even give it much of a rating.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm going to be around there. Like the twist of her having to like see her future to solve the present day problem, I thought was a nice little, like, for me that warranted us covering it, because obviously I wasn't really sure if this was even qualified, because I didn't know the spoiler obviously until I watched the movie. I was like, okay, it's enough for us to talk about, and like in that scene, that justified it for me. But yeah, it's not really explained. It's the idea that once you learn a language, you become unstuck in time. Like, it's like relevant. Time doesn't care about you. Yeah. Time is time. It doesn't really, like, the universe doesn't care that you understand a language. It won't show you your future. Like, even though the language, like, oh, there's no start to finish, therefore your brain has no start to finish. Like,
so what's your rating?
Like I can understand that. It's fine. But yeah, I'll give it 1.5 too.
Oh man, I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to give it a 6.
Wow.
I thought it was like, even though I know scientifically it makes no sense and there's not a lot explained, but I liked the mysticism of it. I liked the idea that, I just liked how it was done. It was very well executed. It's throughout the film. It's just you don't realize until the end that it's been out throughout the film, that she's experiencing these flashes of like the future, the past, the present.
Yeah.
I just like the idea of like this fifth-dimensional being, so to speak, being like this woman who like lived her life a certain way, and all of a sudden now she can see stuff differently. I don't know. I had an emotional attachment to like that idea and that concept, and even though it's weird, in a different lens, I might have gone completely with you guys. Like, but just I guess in the lens that how I experienced it, I have to give it like a 6.
Okay, that's cool. All right, next episode is Matt's choice.
Yes.
Ooh.
What'd you pick?
So we're doing another recent movie, also 2016. It's Doctor Strange. We alluded to it.
So this is the third movie that the actor Griff and I don't know what his name is in Arrival, but he's also in Doctor Strange.
Yeah, but so it might be another spoiler that time travel is involved, but I mean it's a pretty big movie. So
yeah, I don't know if it's that much of a spoiler. Yeah. I think it's more of a spoiler for Arrival than it is for this movie.
Yeah, I agree.
But I think this is the first movie that we've done that we all actually saw together for the first time.
I think so.
I don't think there's been another movie that we've done that with. So
no, at least not together.
Yeah. So that was fun. It was fun. We saw this in theaters together. We're big Marvel fans, so
yeah,
we saw it together. And I remember when it was over, we were like, "We can do this, right? This counts. It counts. All right, Rachel McAdams quadrilogy continues."
Yes. Oh, that's right. Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is the fourth Rachel McAdams movie in her continuing time travel dance. I would say, where she doesn't time travel, but she's involved in a time travel movie.
Dating someone who is a time traveler.
Yes. Unrelated to any of the movies she's done before. This isn't like she's in 3 Back to the Futures. This is just her doing 4 movies that have time travel.
She has to notice, right?
Yeah.
She has to know.
She has to know this is happening.
Yeah.
Right. We say this every time, but if anyone out there knows Rachel McAdams, or if you're listening to Rachel McAdams, please reach out to us. We want to. We've done. Like you are. We
will have done 4 of her movies.
Yeah.
Now. Like let us talk to her.
You are our. You are the gold. Like you are the goal for us in this podcast.
I almost forgot to do the Rotten Tomatoes for Arrival. Sorry. So pause before we go back to Doctor Strange. Arrival is 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. On the critics' consensus, Arrival delivers a must-see experience for fans of thinking persons sci-fi that anchors its heady themes with genuinely affecting emotion and a terrific performance from Amy Adams. It's like a long sentence.
Average is about 8 out of 10. Oh, like 8.2 or 8.3.
Out of 10. So yeah, so we're pretty on point. Cool. So, Doctor Strange, for those who haven't seen it, we do recommend seeing it first, as we will be spoiling. But this is the synopsis. While on a journey of physical and spiritual healing, a brilliant neurosurgeon is drawn into the world of the mystic arts.
That is the most
vague
really vague of this movie.
Right.
Of course, Benedict Cumberbatch is Doctor Strange, Sherlock himself, playing a Sherlock-ish type of character.
Yeah.
Yes. Chiwetel Ejiofor.
It's okay. Chiwetel Ejiofor is great. Rachel McAdams, as we mentioned, directed by Scott Derrickson.
Tilda Swinton,
yes, of course. It's a fun movie.
Yeah, if you have Marvel fatigue and you kind of give up on them, like give it a shot. If you like time travel stuff, it's in there.
Yeah, it's a little bit different,
It's
which
kind
is
of unrelated
nice.
to the other movies.
This movie is on Netflix right now, so it is streaming. So that's cool. If you want to watch it, all right. So social media, we are at Time Travel Trio on Twitter and Instagram, and we are the Time Travel Trio podcast on Facebook. Please send us any suggestions, questions, comments, whatever. Twitter is definitely the best way to get a hold of us, I'd say. But we check everything, so whatever you got, we will read it. We are also on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, so please rate, subscribe, follow us on all of those if you wish. Personal, I am at Jen Marlis on Twitter and on Instagram.
I'm at Foreman in Space on those things.
I'm at Robinson is Hyde.
And
with that,
we are out of
time.